Shout out to our sponsors at Iconbet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. Iconbet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, the episode where we go around the ecosystem and get you the latest and greatest news. And with me, as always, Icongrapher, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, good man. Been a stressful morning, so just, and it's a Friday as well for me. So it's meant to be Friday, but it hasn't felt like that at all.
Well, certainly, hopefully less stressful than the market action we got about a week ago.
What a
Just because,
segue.
yeah.
I've got the charts up.
Well, I was about to say it was kind of like I kind of almost for some reason I thought we already kind of talked about that just because we had that we had the week before we had the kind of the Omicron scare where it dumped pretty well, and then it was everyone kind of thought, okay, we hit what, like 52K or whatever, and everyone kind of thought, okay, we bottomed out, and then we kind of ranged a little bit, and then that that Friday night dump. It seemed like the main culprit was, obviously it was a cascading liquidation situation, so it cleared out a lot of that stuff. But it was that combined with the fact that as far as at least my time zone is concerned, it was like a Friday night. So it was either, Friday night in the US or, early Monday morning weekend in other parts of the world. So there's very low liquidity because there wasn't as much activity, and so you had a bunch of sell-offs combined with a bunch of low liquidity, and it kind of compounded the problem. So obviously, ICX among pretty much every other altcoin was a victim of that. This is another. The general consensus seems to be that there's kind of a healthy flow. There's some people I've been following who had been for a while now talking about how much open interest there was as far as leverage and things like that, and how basically ever since that the run up really got good going a couple months ago, or I guess a few months ago from now, how it's been kind of high. So it's a pretty healthy flush out as far as a lot of people were concerned. A lot of it, I hate using the word consensus because it's I'm kind of forming that based on some of the folks that I follow on Twitter, but there seems to be a lot of consensus, at least in my world, that we 50, it's like between 53,000 and either 40 or 42,000. One's a resistance and one's a support. So there's some people saying we might just hang out in this low range, go up and down for December, maybe longer than that. So it could, granted, I've also heard that in the past, and all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and Bitcoin shoots up 10K in 5 hours or something like that. So maybe not that extreme, but those things do happen. So we'll have to see. I'm getting to the point where I think a lot of people have been operating a lot of theories about how this whole cycle was going to play out based on kind of how past cycles have played out, especially when it comes to people kind of saying, okay, well, if Bitcoin dominance hits X, then that's when we got to like start worrying about alt season, or not worrying but hoping for, or if this happens, then we got to start worrying about X or doing Y. But I think at this point, hopefully everyone's kind of just seeing that this cycle is just totally different from every other cycle. And so, I think looking to past cycles to predict future performance is potentially a fool's errand at this point in time. I don't know necessarily why that is. And also even last cycle was different than the previous ones. There were some similarities, but this one seems to be its own unique beast. I still see the super cycle concept, meme, whatever you want to call it, tossed around here and there. But it certainly is very unique. So I'm, there were even I had some assumptions I was operating on, but I've just kind of thrown that out the window, and I've kind of said, the market's going to give us what it gives us. So I'm hanging out for the time being.
Agree. I mean, look, it's interesting. BTC. There's one person I've been following, Checkmate. He puts up some detail on chain, info as well. And one thing he put up, which was very interesting, he said, what if this last top of 69,000 was a bear market top? it was an interesting bunch of comments that came to it, like because I do recall when we're, and I've got the charts up here in case, so when we were ranging, when we hit that 66,000 and then we started there was a lot of conversation as there doesn't seem to be a lot of volume around this that has driven this price to a new high. Whereas in the past, we've had abundance of volume come through. So you can even see through the volume, it's very tiny compared to what drove that big push up to the top. So he put this thought process. Well, what if the market has changed so much that even in the bear market, because liquidity, and I'm talking strictly BTC here, because there's a bit of a supply shock going on, with your Slaters and stuff like that just hoarding BTC. What if this was a bear market top? And it's an interesting argument, but overall, though, sentiment for on-chainers, some of them have very much been saying, look, it looks like we're going to range. We need to range. Leverage has been flushed. It's a good sign. However, what's probably best is if we range for a little while. So, yeah, I think
It's kind of what we did in like
yes,
didn't we range like basically from like was it like I don't know July to like
yeah,
August September?
yeah,
That's kind
May.
of what we did, right?
Yeah, and we ranged as and we kept popping up and dropping lower and lower. But yeah, even looking at
We,
ICX for now, for example, after the May crash, May till all the way through to July, um, we went up, down, and we ranged between the $1.35 to, well, at the max bottom was 67 cents for ICX. BTC, everyone would have a different story, but that ranging is consolidation, people capitalizing, redistribution of coins. So I think the only call out that is coming back to ICX is, look, I've drawn this terrible line. Every time I do this, I just have bearish bull. I know he's watching this and going, I will send you charts, and I'm going to hit him up soon. In fact, just start dropping charts to us, bearish bull, on Thursday evenings, and I'll just feature them in the show. But over here, we can see there's a trend that has been consistent since the 10-cent days. Okay, this trend has only broken twice, much longer in 2020, and then it's constantly bounced off it, or between these two lines that I've got drawn, which are terrible. But
was that what part of 2020 was that?
so the original trend started in 12th of March 2020.
Uh-huh.
And it's broken this trend, and then there's another trend at 7th of November, a little lower. Every time it's dipped below the higher one, it's always bounced off this lower one. It hasn't fallen below this, and it's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touch points from November through to the last one happened in July 2021. So this is a strong trend, it appears, that has lasted almost 2 years. Oh, wait, what is it? 1 year. Oh, that's not that long. 1.5 years. So fingers crossed, markets. We have a lot of positive news coming as well, but the markets are doing what the markets does. So this is not ICX related. Everything is taking a tumble, a terrible tumble.
Yeah, we'll see. I kind of would have thought some of the airdrop price action would have started. We not to say we'd be at $5 just because the market as a whole is bad, but I think I would have expected to see ICX kind of outpace some of the other ones. So that's a little bit surprising. I don't know if it, maybe once we get actual specific date or block height or something like that, that might change. But either way, I'll chill through December. I think I just think market might get kind of quiet just because sometimes people check out in December due to the holidays and stuff like that, and then we'll see how things play out. I guess obviously that didn't happen in 2017 when the market went nuts in December.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, not applying past cycles to this cycle anymore.
No.
So.
And you know what's funny, actually, Icongrapher, just before this, on the side, all you could see is a sea of red. The new day has clocked in, And as soon as the new day is clocked in, there's the tiniest of a green candle, and everything's looking green at the moment. So enjoy
Well,
it.
it's always a good. It's always a good feeling when that happens. Whereas like on, if you check your Blockfolio or Delta or whatever, and it'll go red for a few days after a market dump, and then that first, the first day it turns over where you're up like 1% and everything turns green. That's always a nice psychological feeling.
Totally.
I wish there was a way to like make everything black and, but as far as I could tell,
The
that's not possible. I think you can on charts, but on TradingView, but.
yeah, there is something, but look, one other part I think that's good thing to kind of highlight the ETH to BTC ratio. We are officially in new high territories, and this is quite interesting because oh no, we're not. Okay, my bad. The highest it was at 0.15 ETH per BTC. So, but you can see on the weekly that I have, we've got a clear breakout from the previous highs. There we go. So this is interesting. A lot of ETH, about the flippening. This is kind of a big deal that was transpiring here. We've seen ETH kind of take the charge, but that's we're not Ion ETH. We're Ion Icon, aren't we?
Yeah, there's some other ETH podcasts I've been aware of. So
Yeah,
if you want that, you can go listen to those.
Bank something. But according to one user, we beat that podcast. That's all that matters. Let's take that win and move on. Okay, let's go to the news, Icongrapher. What are we kicking off with?
So I guess as part of our ongoing ramping up of some of the MyID news, we did get I'll probably mispronounce this. Jing, the one that's spelled Zzeung. It's been around a while now. It's the authentication service utilizing MyID. It has launched an official COVID-19 vaccination certificate service. And so new users to Zheng will verify their details using MyID's decentralized ID environment, which utilizes the public Icon blockchain. This is something that, I think when vaccines and things like that started first popping up, people mentioned, oh, this could be an interesting use case for blockchain as far as, the passports and things like that. So obviously this is, a version of that being implemented. So certainly cool to see another real life use case for this. And one of the other, I pointed this out on Twitter yesterday, but it was, I don't know if it was the first day, but I certainly had noticed it. The leading transaction application contract, whatever you want to call it, for the whole Icon ecosystem was MyID. So that, more than Iconbet, more than Ohm, more than Balanced, more than anything else. So certainly, I don't know how much that was based on those ones maybe going down and how much it was MyID going up or combination thereof. But nonetheless, for something that had, for a while been, had been making transactions, but it was usually, Transcranial on Twitter does their daily charts and things like that, showing the transaction data. So if you don't follow them, I recommend that just to kind of get a sense of how, what the daily transaction breakdown looks like. Since they've been doing those, like, MyID has kind of been on the chart, but not really like super high. So over the last, I don't know, month, 2 months, something like that, it's been picking up more steam. And then, culminating with yesterday, it was the number one transaction generator. So certainly nice to see, and that's a key one just because that's where all the the more kind of mass adoption, enterprise adoption, all that other good stuff, that's where that's all taking place. So certainly very encouraging.
So and you're spot on. So one thing with this is it's actually been on a steady climb. It's funny, Icongrapher, because a lot of people have been noticing that and calling, hey, look at this, my idea. And then yesterday when you tweeted, it basically beat everything else on the network. So there's been a bit of the foundation's been putting out some great content. I noticed the Iconist as well, and I just want to make sure though, and I do not mean this in a negative way, but I'm very big on transparency and ensuring we all understand this. But this particular app, the initial registration of a new user is what sends a transaction to the public chain. After that, it doesn't. But that's not a bad thing. And what we're seeing happening though is before it was used just for one aspect, all of a sudden now it's being used to verify vaccine certificates, which means a whole new lot of users are starting to register. Before they probably may not have had to use the app, but now different situation, because if they have to scan everywhere to get in, well, the first thing they need to do is download the app and register. And what we're seeing is the impacts of that. So keep that in mind and make sure that's very clear. And even the foundation has clearly said new users. So again, not in a negative way. It's just more making sure we're transparent, but we're seeing the impacts. And hopefully what this tells us is, as more adoption happens for this app, and say even the niche haven't used it and then need to start using it, we'll just see this ripple effect keep happening. So yeah, it's really good stuff. And what's really cool, Iconographer? Like, I don't know, between you and me, I'd almost given up on this, hearing much about the public sector, the private sector. Why? Because we knew that things are just taking time. South Korean government side that has been in power has not been too favorable to crypto. So kind of just paused that, and we had plenty going on public chain. And then, as you like to say, out of nowhere, this happens, and we've seen just round after round of stuff come out from the private sector. So it's got me feeling that. It's got me feeling good, because probably that was a big investment on my part in Icon, buying it, because I felt this was really cool to see a chain kind of have both aspects, where it's looked through from the government sector and they're working on it, and here. So anyway, a little bit of a ramble, but to me, all this stuff is really good that we're seeing a lot of this news come out.
Yeah, well, I mean, Korea is a little interesting because it's very the way I've kind of understood it is it's very kind of crypto skeptical, but very pro blockchain, if that makes sense. So they I think they for a long time recognized and invested in the promise underlying technology, but they haven't been as enthusiastic on the speculative, side of the actual, investing and things like that. So I think that's where the dynamic kind of falls into place. And I think, like as you pointed out, it's you sign up, you generate the transaction to kind of impart your information on the blockchain. But for a lot of the actual using of it, you'll walk up to a building and it'll hold up a QR code or something like that, which gets scanned. So all it is reading information. It's not necessarily interacting with it. But I think you kind of alluded to this, but basically, the more users that we get utilizing these various platforms, it just opens up more and more future use cases for them. So at a certain point, they might make additions to it. They might find other ways to potentially be a BTP of interacting with that decentralized ID and things like that. So the fact that, I think that's kind of why, the MyID kind of lagged behind some of the other applications for so long was because, it was picking up users, but not a whole lot. But again, all it was is you had that first and that initial sign up, and that was kind of it for the most part. And so I think, the more people you get, any platform that has a lot of users, that in itself is going to be able to accrue future value and future activity and things like that. So, it's certainly, it's absolutely, maybe it's not as bullish as some people might, kind of initially think on the surface, but it certainly isn't bearish by any means.
Yeah.
And again, BTP opens up a lot of different use cases, and the fact that it gets adopted more and more, I think as enterprises and governments get more and more comfortable with the blockchain ID, the fact that they're using it for such a critical public health issue as far as vaccine stuff, I think that's very encouraging. And
Totally.
hopefully, open the floodgates for more and more adoption as people realize it's a technology worth adopting.
Yeah, and to your point, and just to close this off, is I just called out currently new registers only, but what we're seeing is this may not be always the case, and I think I can go for this is exactly what you're trying to imply. Yes, BTP, but overall, the fact that this is already happening, and as it expands, there may be a new evolution of it. Well, how can they utilize this, and it gives these kind of benefits? We may see something happen from that as well. We don't have any inside info. We don't know. We're just presuming here. But the fact that this is happening and it's already now used as these vaccine passports is well, bullish in my eyes. Let's leave it at that. What's next?
Yeah. Well, and maybe we'll get from some of these folks who do the analytics already, whether it's Icon Watch or Transcranial with their maybe they can get like a MyID watch or something like that kind of helps, once there's enough there, just showing, hey, X number were new signups, X number were the transactions, that sort of stuff. But obviously it's easy for me to impart work on other people, but anyway, just an idea I kind of thought of there.
Yeah.
So another piece of information. So, I think people are familiar with the iconrepublic.org website. It was something Marcus had worked on a little while back, a few months ago. It had launched. It was kind of a centralized hub for all kind of icon information and things like that. Very helpful. At the same time, we also have the icon.community, which has been around since, I think kind of been basically since mainnet launch, maybe a little bit after that. And so you kind of have two websites that to a certain extent serve the same purpose. And so a decision got made to basically migrate everything onto the icon.community page and phasing out the Icon Republic site once the migration is finished. So, I think, I think it's kind of common sense to just, there was always there was like an icon.foundation and then the icon.community. They were two separate ones. Icon.foundation basically became Icon Republic. And so just having the two websites, I think it makes it, obviously harder for people to capture all the information and things like that. So merging them into one, I think just makes a lot of sense. And that icon.community would be the one they get merged into. I don't know if that's because it had been around for longer or maybe had a better SEO score or whatever it might be. But nonetheless, just want to make people aware of that. So in case they go to Icon Republic and it's not there or whatever, that you know why.
Yep. And then, this is also really cool. Like, there's been quite a lot of suggestions been made on the new website and stuff in the forums, post the icon.foundation website that's come out. And, we've had Jen and everyone jump in there and actually go feedback taken on board. We're making changes. And the feedback has been extremely constructive. So well done to the community members that have actually pulled together and constructed feedback in not a having a go or disappointed kind of manner, really going, these are great changes, here's some of the aspects, and actually put up, I don't know, Icongraph, if you've seen it, but they've actually put up comparisons with other chain sites and what kind of information's being displayed and how we can utilize it for us. It was quite brilliantly done. So actively the foundations come on. Jen actually got on there, noted these are great, fantastic. We're looking through it and trying to make changes as noted. So very cool to see. But yeah, look, I think I remember the Icon Republic org, but like by the time, I'm going to be very honest, by the time that got released, I felt it was already out of date. So I think the vision there was created in such a way so then everyone could go and update it to keep it relevant. However, I've started to notice a bit of a trend. We're probably going down that path a little too soon. The ecosystem as it currently is probably wasn't ready for everyone to take charge. So we still need that driving force from a where to land, what is Icon all about, and keeping that information updated. We still need the foundations kind of help with putting that together, and because our ecosystem hasn't reached that explosion point. So, again, that's a bit of a personal take, but yeah. Next up.
Yep. So another piece of news we got from the foundation. I'll kind of read the initial tweet. Recently, we've joined a number of crypto heavyweights by strategically backing algorithmic market maker Efficient Frontier. And then it goes into explain what exactly Efficient Frontier does and how it helps Icon. Basically, Efficient Frontier has their algorithms optimize hundreds of millions of dollars and more than 150,000 transactions in daily trading turnover across numerous digital assets and exchanges. While developing one of the crypto industry's most advanced algorithmic trading systems, EF will help Icon to build healthy, liquid markets and deliver high value for ICX traders and investors. So, obviously, I think this is cool, because, Icon's basically kind of serving a bit as like a venture capital arm to a certain extent, along with some other kind of well-known, prominent crypto industry investors. And so I think that alone is kind of cool, but also just the fact that we're, to a certain extent, it's kind of building our, our market maker partnership list. There was a few months ago that they had partnered with, I can't remember off the top of my name who it was, but off the top of my head who it was. But nonetheless, this is something that, it's just, Icon stepping further into the crypto world, but also obviously getting some benefit from having a market maker to help create more liquidity and all that other good stuff. So I know that's one thing, people always kind of whenever liquidity is low and things like that, people kind of say, oh, we need market makers. Not aware that we already have some, but certainly this is another piece of that puzzle. So certainly something positive to see, and look forward to seeing how this partnership, investment, however you want to call it, continues to grow.
Yeah, I remember that as well, Icongrapher. So I don't remember the name, but recently there was. So you can see there's an active push to keep driving this market maker front. So yeah, another great partnership, and they're partnered with quite a lot of different big chains as well. This Frontier place.
I think Alameda Research was on there, I think.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bigger names that I'm certainly aware of.
Yeah.
Another bit of news: testnet ecosystem for Icon 2.0 has now been completed. So there's, this gets a little bit technical, but there's basically, there was multiple testnets on the original Icon 1.0 version. There was like the Udio one. There was the Sejong, I think that's what it was. So now we have Lisbon, we have Berlin, and we have Sejong again. So each one kind of provides different features and different kind of specializations as far as what testing needs to get done and things like that. A lot of this you're probably not that interested in unless you're a dev, and if you are a dev, you're probably pretty well versed on these already. But nonetheless, just wanted to kind of highlight this briefly to show that the building of Icon 2.0, it didn't stop the second the migration ended and things like that. There's still a lot of work that's going into it to make sure that it's a fully functional blockchain that has all the features of what we've grown accustomed to in 1.0. There's still some little kinks and things like that are being worked out. I haven't noticed any major issues or things like that. That's just a thing that gets cited from time to time as far as, maybe why certain things aren't happening in various dApps and things like that. So it's a bit of a process, but obviously this is a nice moment and a nice kind of feature set, especially if you're a dev who wants to develop on Icon 2.0. And then on a similar note, the GoLoop 1.1.0, and GoLoop is kind of the engine that powers Icon 2.0, kind of under the surface, kind of the language, the architecture, I guess you could say. Obviously, and again, just another sign that they're continuing to build this out and build out the infrastructure and everything like that. So, if you're a P rep and you're listening and you have not updated your node yet, please do that. The foundation put a Twitter out explaining how to do that. So just wanted to note that there for any P reps who might be listening and maybe weren't aware of that update.
Yeah, look, the only thing I'll say regarding the testnet, if I remember, this was always a point of contention with Icon, the original chain. The testnet ecosystem just wasn't developed enough. It was always, not stable, and there was no clear call outs and where you go. So and the reason I call this out is, again, this was something that their foundation did say, feedback noted, we will make improvements. And you can see right off the bat with the launch of 2.0, and even through the build up, there was a constant update of testnets, the way the testnet ecosystem would evolve and launch. And now this is the final communication going, yep, this is how it will work, defining each testnet, but there's clearly now a better layout for it. So again, call out stuff that doesn't work. I'm quite vocal there, but here's as well things that definitely that change where they are listening, changes are being implemented. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but steps in the right direction. So it's good to see.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to some Ohm news now. So I guess there's a proposal that has been put up on the discussion board. I don't know how many folks have seen this yet, but it's kind of, it's a little bit interesting. Basically, kind of an effort to generate a bit more liquidity and to potentially, the person who posted this kind of has expressed some concern about the token price of Ohm. And the fact that it's been going down, we can get in. There's a whole other discussion about the tokenomics behind Ohm and all that other kind of stuff. But putting that aside, so they have a solution of basically, there's the protocol has collected about close to 400K in protocol fees, and then also so they have that, and then taking 400K from the Ohm tokens in the DAO fund, and basically utilizing that as a pair and providing liquidity for the so that Ohm would go to the Ohm protocol would essentially earn that Ohm rather than necessarily spilling out to other LPs who might be selling it. And then at the same time, they also propose dropping the emissions for that liquidity provider pair for the Ohm slash US stablecoin Ohm pair. So I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on this. I kind of get where they're coming from. I haven't thought deeply about the implications of this necessarily, but again, what it is essentially take 400K that the protocol's earned in various stable coins versus the 400K that the protocol has in the 400K worth of Ohm that the protocol has in the DAO, putting them in the liquidity pool. And so the protocol would essentially, because it owns liquidity, get a lot of that Ohm distribution and theoretically, and not sell it. That's taking a little bit of pressure off the market. I think, I guess generally speaking, it kind of like, I think the way to increase the value of a token is incentivizing, getting more users to use the protocol at the end of the day. There's a lot of kind of games sometimes you can kind of play with this as far as, even like token buybacks and things. But I think ultimately to create a more sustainable long-term price growth, even adjusting the emission schedule for the protocol, that's a more substantial change that can benefit over the long term, things like that. So again, I'm not going to weigh in specifically on this proposal because I haven't fully thought it through or looked at it in depth or anything like that, but certainly wanted to flag it for those who want to participate in the discussion. And if it does come up for a vote, certainly, make sure you have a little bit of background, obviously do a bit more thinking on your own, but just certainly wanted to flag that.
Yeah, look, until you explained it, I didn't quite understand what this proposal was about. Shame on me being a monk and all. I find, yes, it's an interesting take on trying to go down a protocol owned liquidity model, but okay, it's not incentivizing. All it's doing is it's lowering the protocol's getting more of the LP, which to me, again, this is. I will be vocal, Icongrapher. I think it's ludicrous. Frankly, the issue is emissions. Fix it. Why are we doing these ridiculous roundabout ways? To me, it's just. I appreciate the concept here. I think it's actually quite smart, but it's not going to fix anything. Even here, this will do nothing. The emissions are far too high, and instead of this going through, I don't understand why we just don't straight away reduce the emissions. And I've seen this done in other protocols. Harvest Finance did this. They dropped the emissions from they had like a 10 million distribution and they made it I don't know, a million, don't quote me on this, but they dropped it drastically. And essentially, then the redistribution was the LPs and stuff like that it shifted, right? So it was far lower. But what happened was the price after a couple of months stabilized and started to go up because emissions dropped. So for me, it's like, drop your emissions and then implement this. That is a far better use case and resolves a lot of the issues. It's a long-term fix, and shorter term, we're having a impact directly. Again, just my 2 cents, but I will constantly be on the bandwagon for Ohm that emissions need to change. Everyone's trying to find solutions. It's too high. The entire token count supply can be readjusted via proposal. So if we've got some expert token people, get in there, get in the forums and start pitching. I have views, but I have no. I'm not a token expert. Yeah.
And then just one of the other kind of cool things that got added, this got added a couple days ago, basically a beginner's guide to Ohm. So it's set up for someone who basically has not touched, used, bought cryptocurrency at all. starts from a very introductory set. So for those, I know it's become a meme now, but when you're hanging out with your friends and family during the holidays and things like that, and they ask about crypto, that you can send them this link. It teaches them kind of some basics on crypto, but also Icon specifically, and then also kind of walks through how to sign in through Bridge so they can connect directly with the bank account, utilizing Stably, and then supplying USDS on Ohm to earn interest. So pretty, it's got some nice graphics, everything like that. I haven't read the whole thing in detail, but it looks pretty intuitive and fairly easy to use. So if someone's asking, even if they're familiar with crypto and things like that, but you mentioned that, oh, hey, I'm using this platform that gets me, 15, 20%, whatever it is right now on stables, you can send them this, and it's pretty easy to guide them through it and help figure it out. So very nice initiative there.
Yep, agree. Love this. I tweeted out I have family and friends. They won't listen, but I have them. So this is look. It's great. This is the kind of stuff Ohm was always meant to be about, right? The whole idea when Ohm delayed its launch, etc., wanted Bridge to be ready. It wanted to be that transition piece for people who just wouldn't venture in to simplify it. So it's great to see them releasing a bit of content to help people, because I believe what the vision was to where it is currently probably hasn't lined up, because there's a few little bits and pieces still to patch that the team are working through, especially after you sign up with Bridge. But this is fantastic and steps in the right direction. What else we got?
So a little bit of a kind of an update, certain from via Foundation, but about Balanced. So mentions, just kind of gives an update on some of the things they're working on. Basically, Balance team is close to deploying the continuous rewards, which will allow users to claim rewards at any time. I think this is something that a lot of people have been paying attention to and excited about, so I don't think we need to go into a whole lot of detail about what it is. But basically, points out with Icon's low transaction fees, this means Balance users will be able to compound earnings more frequently. Certainly nice. And then also mentions that the transaction routing has been deployed recently. So I don't know if anyone's used that before, but say you're trying to buy a token that try to say, basically say you want to buy trade ICX for BALN. Which is a pair that does not exist as like an actual liquidity pool. You have to go buy SICX and then use your SICX to buy BALN. What it does now is it does that whole chain for you in the background. Obviously, it'll have a bit higher fees and things like that because it's making multiple transactions, but it makes it a lot easier than having to go through 2 or 3 different pairs, sometimes even 4, just to get from one to the other. So very nice user interface, user experience upgrade there, and something that I know people have been excited about also. And then the other kind of key feature is the BALN, the time-locked balance token. The support is now undergoing testing on testnet. So once live, BALN will allow users to multiply their rewards by committing BALN to a time-locked stake. This is something that we talked about, I think, pretty good in depth when it first came about. So it seems like now that it's on testing on testnet, hopefully it's something we'll get pretty soon, and be able to lock your BALN to further maximize your rewards and things like that. So certainly very exciting.
Yep, I think only call out I want to make. So, and I keep touching on this, we're seeing, the Foundation has really ramped up their comms, which is fantastic. And this is probably an effort where to comms around the Foundation, but also given their reach, let's start pushing out some communications around our ecosystem, and not just Balanced and Ohm, everyone in our ecosystem. So it's a great push, and I do want to call out though, I'd love to keep seeing the community. The community is really reacting to this, and I've seen, looking at all the comments, which has been fantastic. The next step as well, remember, was the issue is not enough information is coming through. So how can the community then run with it, like create that army, of advocates, etc., pushing what is going on in the Icon ecosystem. So that hasn't existed because we haven't got that information. So now we're starting to see that feedback's been taken on board, that information is being pushed out. Just a kind of more of a reach out to the community. I would love to see the community really take this information and start pushing out their own narratives and content. And that can be, Iconographer, you've done this in the past. I remember you put out hypotheticals of what these changes could mean or how protocols can work together. Just be creative now that the information is trickling out. So, and you know, we had JC Hyperconnect is a great example. Okay, he got involved listening to Iron Icon, fantastic stuff. And I don't know if Iconographer, have you watched the Karma DAO episode?
Not yet. It's on my list though.
Okay, definitely one to pick up because JC Hyperconnect he won one of the HX57 bounties, right? On rebalancing, I believe that's what he put out. Yep. Sorry if I got that wrong, but anyway, and then he started doing a couple of articles, and Robbie from Protocol 7 reached out to him and onboarded him to work with Protocol 7, and he's now working with Protocol 7, and Karma DAO is going to be one of the projects. What a fantastic story. And all that happened there was he started took part in a competition, and then realized people really appreciated his views, and started putting it out. So, and he's gotten something from it. So, yeah, this is really, if you're just sitting there in the sidelines, you have that talent, you can, break down stuff or think of unique ways, start putting it out. I've seen this happen across the entire crypto ecosystem. In the Terra ecosystem, I've noticed a lot of people started doing this, and they got snapped up in different roles by the builders. And we're starting to see a bit of this play out in Icon as well. So this is just a real reach out going, please don't see that the foundation's putting out content and everyone puts their legs up in the air going, well, they listen, finally, now we don't have to do anything. No, it doesn't work that way. The community needs to keep pushing this forward. And it's a good reflection then to take back to the foundation, go, see, this is working. You're putting out the right kind of content. Our community is loving it and evolving with it. So enough about that, Iconographer. Sorry, I tend to go, but I feel that these points are very important to get across to our very passionate listeners of Iron Icon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been that general kind of outreach, communication, marketing topic has been basically in existence for almost 4 years now. So it's always relevant, and certainly good to remind people that you can't just point at others and say they need to do better. It's certainly clear that the foundation is doing better, but it's still we're a community, and a community if it works together and works at full capacity, that's what really can move projects and make things happen. So just keep that in mind.
Yep, well said. Next up.
Yep. So moving on, kind of some little miscellaneous pieces of news. There's a good, interview / news story in the Iconist regarding Iconbet. I think everyone who's listening is probably pretty familiar with Iconbet. Basically, one of the first definitely the first major DApp on Icon, been a huge driver of transactions over the years. Kind of a couple updates they're mentioning. So one of them is they're kind of creating a separate kind of tap portal where people can view stats regarding dividends, tap allocation, things like that. The reason they're doing this is they felt that people who are just going to play the games and not necessarily to earn tap, kind of create a bit of a sour taste when they saw they'd lose money, and then they'd see people were making money based on their losses. That's how the model works, and that's kind of the cool part of Iconbet. And obviously you're a tap holder, you're very appreciative of that model, but you can understand why those who not everyone goes there to earn the taps. Some people go there for to play the games and earn some money, and so it might sour that experience. And obviously from their standpoint as a casino, the last thing they want to do is kind of alienate the folks who are using the platform. So I think that's a pretty intuitive change. Look forward to seeing how that gets played out.
Just before
they're also making.
Oh, sorry. I only wanted to say, you said you started this off with some little tidbits, and the headline actually has a picture of big changes. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I guess tidbits they don't fit in any box or category like some of our other news does. So it's not a size issue. It's a category issue. But nonetheless, also some improvements on the mobile side of things. I think this is something where they've alluded to that, especially when it comes to poker, that there's a lot of kind of the diehard, or even not even the diehard, but the ones who play poker, being able to do it on the mobile phone, when they're out and about, things like that. That's a key part of it. So they really want to get that right. Not just for poker, but for all games as a whole. Kind of even setting it up to where, mobile is almost like the better experience than playing it on desktop. So certainly nice to see them striving for, I won't say perfection, but certainly trying to get there as far as the user experience is concerned. And then they also kind of talk, I think everyone's very excited for Liquid Sports, poker, and Supernode racing. So a little bit of updates on that. One of the things I was kind of, they mentioned Liquid Sports is going to be, which is the sports book, is going to be built out on ice, which I think is exciting. One of the things I was kind of wondering is, okay, well, what, if I'm a tap holder, do I still get the benefits um, of that platform, or however, of that liquidity? And the answer is yes, according to this article. So that was certainly nice to see. I assumed that would be the case, but it was nice to get that confirmation nonetheless. They also mentioned there will be some updates, big update. I think they say the word big update. Anyway, update nonetheless on poker. So certainly something nice to see. And then also some, Supernode racing is still in development. And the article ends basically saying they have promised more big news about Supernode racing will come in the next year. So not sure if that's early next year or what, but nonetheless, that's not one that's necessarily easy to build either, just based on the graphical component alone. But we'll certainly be following all that stuff. So just wanted to highlight that. And again, they are sponsors of the show, so we obviously want to express our appreciation for them for that. But I also know, even aside from that, a lot of folks are either holding tap or have used Iconbet, or maybe they're playing as they listen to us right now. So certainly wanted to highlight what is some cool updates from a very significant platform on the Icon ecosystem.
Yep, no, it's great. It was a great update, and yeah, go our sponsors, go.
So, and then another very popular, I would call this a DApp necessarily, but it kind of is, but Gbet, which is the NFT collectible. Appears to be becoming a game of some sort, based on some of the teases they've been giving us. We've obviously talked about it a good amount over the last few weeks since it's launched. The Gbet token is now available to be traded on Balanced. So people have been earning Gbet for a little while, and they've been kind of trading it like which is kind of peer to peer, which isn't the most necessarily convenient thing. And obviously it kind of opens up opportunities to get scammed and things like that. So the fact there's now liquidity to trade the pair against each other on Balance is certainly nice. And so they are also incentivizing their liquidity providers. So obviously, not only do those who provide liquidity get a portion of the trading fees from that, but they're also rewarding with what they're calling GG, which is the governance token for GangstaBet. So this one's a little, GangstaBet's kind of the current, or the Gbet is kind of the currency, and the GG is the governance token. In other platforms like BALN, for instance, is kind of they're like one to one. There's basically only one token that kind of serves both purposes, but in this case, the model is a little bit different. So they've got two tokens. So the way to earn GG is to provide liquidity to that pool. And again, it's been nice to be able to purchase or sell Gbet if need be. I've only been purchasing it because I've been trying to upgrade one of my characters to the mob boss level so I could get the airdropped 3 city blocks. So I've been purchasing some Gbet as of late, and certainly nice to be able to just buy as much as I need to on the balanced pool.
Yeah. Look, this is great to see. I noticed in the update though they were talking about another pair. I think for me, I don't. Some protocols they don't need to list every pair. Like you don't need to
Well,
go down
especially
that route.
with the transaction routing also. So it already kind
Exactly.
of is listed for multiple pairs.
Exactly, and like given this is so unique, the supply is always going to be an issue. Yeah. Apart from that, it's great. You know, I can go for take a moment. Tell us what exactly do you need to do to qualify for the 3 slots? You seem to be well versed in it. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember off the top of my. Basically, if you have a level, I believe it's 8, 9, or 10 character, this would provide you. I think they're airdropping some sort of land, and then I do know that they're if you have a mob boss, or so on the gangster side, it's the mob boss being the highest level. I can't remember what the highest level is on the detective side, but whatever level 10 is for detective, same similar situation. It was supposed to be done second week of December, so I'm hoping. I don't know if they set a specific date yet. If they haven't caught that, and hopefully I upgraded mine in time to be able to catch that. But they, if you haven't seen that yet, certainly go to their Twitter or hang out in their Discord, and I'm certainly you can find more details than more details, and also probably more accurate details based on what I'm trying to recite off the top of my head here. But that's generally the case. The higher level characters are getting. Basically, that's the kind of the gateway to getting some real estate in the new world that's being built by the Gangsta team.
Love it. Cool. Okay, next up we have our one and only Token Tech Guy.
Yeah, a little bit of news here from Andrew Burns of our Rhizome team. Basically, so I guess they're working on a couple things here. First is currently working on a new push notification to alert on any staking requests. So, basically this will provide another level of security for those that might not otherwise know that the wallet has been compromised. So, theoretically, yeah, if someone gets into your your private key or something like that, and you have staked ICX in there, it'll give you an alert saying, hey, this ICX is being unstaked, which would be indicative that this person plans to unstake it and then send it to another wallet. So the fact that it'll alert you to that, you can A, your wallet's compromised, but B, you can restake it. Now I don't know how that plays out over the long term. Is it just a battle between staking, unstaking, staking, unstaking, or what? But nonetheless, it's certainly something that you're able to. It's better to know than to not know. That's for sure.
Yep.
And then the other one they're working on is something. The way Andrew described it is the next large feature we are working on is not something that you will necessarily see on the UI, but something that we really need in time for BTP and for our own sanity. The feature in our core backend is called Seek and Find, and what it will do is automatically seek out any LPs your tokens are currently in. So we are hoping that regardless of how many LPs balance adds, your Metricx information shouldn't lag too far behind. And then huge shout out to DevJack for building this feature. We are in testing phase at the moment, and I'll announce it when it's live. So basically, just architecturally speaking, a better way to kind of with so many LPs, being added on balance, seemingly it's like feels like one new one a week by now. Maybe not that often, but nonetheless, once we get BTP up and running, there'll be a lot of different LP tokens and things like that. So just a better way for the app to track them and be able to count for them within the Metricx interface. So nothing too earth shattering, but certainly want to provide people an update on that because we know there's a lot of folks listening right now who utilize Metricx and would probably be happy to know what's going on with it.
Yep, agree. Great changes. They just keep it on, don't they? Updating things, and it's a lot of work. Andrew's put in a bit of detail here, but the amount of hours they put in to just keep Metricx up to date with everything going on in the Icon ecosystem is huge, and thanks for all the work they do. The only other bit of news I thought to quickly cover off, so, we have our partners, Redfox Labs. They currently have just kicked off an auction. So basically their virtual, I've got it up here, so they have a virtual shop and, different people can come in and bid. At the moment, each of these spaces is selling for 1.3 ETH. And the sale's going on at the moment. Obviously, we know Icon has one of these as part of the partnership. Redfox Labs were generous and said, yep, let's partner together. You can have a shop. But the goal for Redfox Lab was to auction it off, quite a lot of these into the metaverse. And that's what's going on. It's kicked off. And you can see they've had already 25 ETHs come in. And part of this auction process, essentially, when they sell the shops, what they're doing is they're using the proceeds to burn the RFox token that's out there. So that's what it's not that the team are pocketing the sales. They're basically using the sales to destroy the circulating supply, which is a thank you to all the token holders for obviously standing by while they built and get ready for this event. This is like our BTP event for them. Yeah, it's like, to put it in perspective. So they are partners. I expect big things once we get our metaverse shop set up in there, because you just have to think like the first shops that are set up in there and the people who are curious that go to explore the metaverse, this is what they're going to see. So we're going to see a whole new group of different communities venture into the metaverse, and Icon's going to be front and center where they can get into that shop and explore the dApps and things, NFTs, all kinds of different things happening in the Icon ecosystem, which is pretty cool. But yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I think one of the things you and I were talking about before we went live was basically, you've kind of noticed that, as our, as the Icon community and, Icon kind of highlights Redfox and everything they're doing, we've noticed a little bit of migration from the Redfox community into our community. And I think you mentioned there were folks asking about balance and things like that. So just a nice example of how, these type of partnerships, there's the community spillover effects, and maybe a bit of a preview of what BTP will bring us as well.
Yeah, agree. And that's a whole other conversation, isn't it, Icongrapher? The fact that they're there, what BTP would enable for the metaverse. I've hinted at this. Hopefully we'll have more information if there's stuff going to happen there. But the first thing we need to happen is BTP launching, which is imminent. And I think we don't have anything else, but it leads perfectly into Naeem, who has tweeted. I don't have that tweet up, I'm sorry, but he put through this great tweet. He is leaving us, and if you're involved in the community, you've dealt with him. He's very active on Discord, actually constantly dropping exactly what's going on from a dev standpoint and timelines, often giving timelines, I've noticed as well. He's been huge, instrumental in cutting that gap where the technical information was trickling down to the wider builders in the Icon community. When he was onboarded, I remember he'd reached out and a few things, and he was very big on making the information transparent. And you know what? He has been very successful. You can see even when he announced that, and when a lot of the P-reps who build, who have devs, got wind of it, they were very sad and said, could we do anything to keep him in the ecosystem? One call out is, look, from what I've heard as well, Naeem's very big with Bitcoin. He, you could see from his tweets a while back, exploring the Lightning Network and asking a lot of questions around that. That's what he believes in. He believes in wanting to fix money, and to Bitcoiners, Bitcoin is that fix to the money problem, not the DeFi solutions that are being created. And to put more context on that is, DeFi is not new. It's doing the same thing your traditional finance has done with money. The difference is it is extremely transparent because of the smart contracts, and all the middle people are taken out. So what you see is what you get. That's a very oversimplification of it, but that is actually fact. So whereas Bitcoin is very different, with a fixed money supply and all of that goes with it, it changes things a lot. So totally get his perspective and respect it. And sad to see him go. So this was a bit of a tribute rant, Fez rant.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to learn more about Bitcoin, you can listen to Eye on Bitcoin.
Hey.
I'm just kidding. But I want to point out too, some people are kind of obviously disappointed to see him go because he has been so helpful, but I think also concerned that, he's gone now, is it going to go back to what it was, where we didn't have that line of communication? But it sounds like he worked pretty hard to, his I can't remember, successor or successors, to get them up to speed. Also, too, I think he's kind of set a standard and had set a level of expectations, and I think the foundation understands that now, that the way he operated and the way he helped out was really helpful for the community. I think it relieved a lot of frustration and just kind of opened up that nice dialogue. So he kind of set a model that I think will be replicated, and it's, like I said, it sounds like he worked pretty hard to make sure that his, whoever was following him, it would be, we wouldn't really lose too much of a step in
Yeah.
between him and the next folks as far as that input level of communication, all that other good stuff.
And you know what? Just for community point of view, they've had a few people onboarded over 2 months ago. So instead of one, two people onboarded and working through with Naeem constantly, getting up to scratch to make sure that there wasn't a drop in that standard. So they understand the importance, and the foundation has done a bit of work around that. So, look, it's sad, but it's not it shouldn't be viewed in a negative way. People are allowed to move on. After all, one thing that called out Naeem was looking for a job in crypto, and it's funny how he had a job in the Terra ecosystem, Icon, and he picked Icon. And yeah, let's remove price for a moment. He picked Icon because of the ethos and what it meant. That was a big thing to him. So, yeah, look, people are allowed to move on. This is not a things are bad, moving on kind of way. That's all. That was the biggest call out, and completely agree. So thank you, Noam. If you listen to the podcast, which I may tag him in, one for you to listen, thank you for all your hard work and constantly just being in the front lines, communicating to everyone about any questions that are being asked. So we've really appreciated your time here, Nikon. Yeah,
All right.
that's it.
Well, yeah, I think that does it for this week.
Cool. As always, everyone, not financial advice. I hope you haven't just gone and taken out 3 mortgages and bought, every token we've talked about. No, you do not want to do this. Please make sure you do your own research. We're just a couple of guys who really care about the Icon ecosystem and giving you our thoughts and trying to round up a bit of the news. And as always, shout out to Donnie as well, who does collate all the news for us every week without fail so that we can deliver it to everyone listening. And lastly, make sure you are liking, please like, subscribe, share, retweet. These things matter. The more this happens, the more new users. Just look at the story I gave. JC stumbled on an Icon, started looking into it. Now he's got a job in crypto. There we go. So it really helps. So please make that effort. It's appreciated. That's all I have, Iconographer.
All right. Yeah, me too.
Okay, take care, everyone.
See ya.